Tuesday evening, the 14th day of April 2015. And today, I spent some time going out doing some video shooting. Uh, out in, we're around by the Windham, New Hampshire, Rail Trail, Nature Trail. And, as I did, as usual, take my afternoon nap time afterwards, when I returned home. And one thing I, of course, always do is read news stories online, because I get my news mostly online via the internet instead of watching television, because I can get different news stories and different points of view, other than what is espoused on the television. And there's one thing that is interesting, which I can't try to that I'm puzzled about. Okay, we have presidential candidates. Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and of course Senator Rand Paul. They support this, restoration of religious freedom, legislation. But one thing that is very, very puzzling to me is that Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz are Hispanic, and the primary basis of all the Jim Crow laws and discrimination of the past were totally based upon religious freedom. People could say, I do not have to, serve a Hispanic, or I do not have to, serve a black person, because my religion says so. But that is totally and utterly immoral and wrong. And, and also the Louisiana governor, Bobby Jindal, who is, of course, non-white, is also heavily supporting and espousing this religious freedom legislation, for his state of Louisiana. And which is kind of ironic, because they are using this legislation, to say go after homosexuals, but change the term. But the way these religious freedom restoration acts are worded is that anybody can cite a religious reason for not serving a black person, for not serving a Hispanic, for not serving a Jew, for not serving a Muslim or a Hindu or a Unitarian or a Jehovah's Witness. Playing this game, playing this religious freedom restoration game, is not restoring religious freedom. It is sanctioning, they say they want to take stop the homosexuals, but the ones whom they are really stopping or going after are blacks and Hispanics, who together in the next few years are gonna be the majority, and of course also against Asians. Non-whites will become the majority in the United States, this country. So, what this religious freedom restoration, what the business is actually doing, is a last gasp effort by white supremacists to hold on to, to keep the status quo, and to take it with it, maintain the so-called older white male power structure, which I find myself is totally immoral and utterly corrupt. I'm sorry, I have a lot of things to say about this, but the thing is, if you play the religious freedom game to justify discrimination against one group of people, you're actually saying that it's okay for anybody to discriminate against anybody else, and just simply totally get away with it under the guise of religious belief, which is a totally immoral and unjustifiable, given the realities of today's of the United States, or this country of today. It was religious belief that sanctioned slavery. It also sanctioned the Jim Crow white supremacist power structure in the former Confederacy. And it is primarily the legislators in the Confederacy who are pushing this religious freedom legislation to take and turn the clock back to the 19th century, when Jim Crow was discrimination led to the wholesale lynching and slaughter of at least 500,000 non-whites in the 100 years after the Civil War. So was it who do these Elephant Party people think they are? Is it based upon what they're espousing and what they are and what they're for and who they're against? Is it their real enemies? That is not just the homosexual, but the enemies that the Republican Party wants to destroy are blacks. They want to destroy Hispanics, and they want to destroy Asians, and they also want to destroy non-Christians. Number two is part of this Religious Freedom Restoration Act nonsense is is doing is was it was it playing the game of was it whose version of Christianity is going to be the correct version, and whose version of Christianity is going to be the one, which versions of Christianity are going to be the ones that are going to be ruthlessly was it denigrated and persecuted. Because under the guise of religious freedom restoration, you can actually have, Protestant businessmen, with it, totally with it say, we do not put out signs out in front of their businesses saying, we don't serve papists, which is another with a derogatory term for Roman Catholics, or we do not serve Jews, or we do not serve, or Roman Catholics could put out, businessmen could put out signs saying that we do not serve Antichrist heretics, which of course who they mean is of course all Protestants. So this type of religious freedom restoration legislation that's really playing with ripping the United States apart on sectarian religious lines. And of course, other people, other minorities such as homosexuals, and transgendered, and also religious freedom restoration could also be used legislation, and could be used to discriminate against persons with disabilities. Businesses can use religious reasons to not put in handicapped access into their places of business, or people that could actually put out signs out in the front of the business. We don't serve cripples. We do not serve mental retards. We don't serve psychos, which of course is a derogatory term for persons with mental illness. So this is just really totally bogus, totally bullshit, and totally utterly it's totally un-American. That's all I have to say.